In 1994, a financial advisor named William Benjamin introduced the world to a seemingly perfect retirement formula. In the following years, it spread to nearly every financial institution, becoming the undisputed law of retirement planning. This formula is the 4% safe withdrawal rate, a strategy that everyone simply calls the 4% rule. But what actually happens when you follow an outdated formula into a modern economic storm, and what should we all do instead? The 4% rule was built in an era of predictable bond yields, arguably a financial world that no longer exists. It only works by assuming markets will behave just like they did in the past. Today, unprecedented inflation spikes and dramatically increased human longevity have mathematically destroyed this traditional retirement withdrawal strategy. Millions of people are unknowingly leaving themselves completely exposed to a terrifying scenario, slowly bleeding their life savings dry until they hit a devastating portfolio zero. If this rigid mathematical rule is effectively dead, why are 90% of financial advisors still telling you to use it? The reality is that the financial industry is notoriously slow to adapt. When you retire using this old rule, you are essentially launching a fragile ship into a violent hurricane, navigating entirely by a map drawn for calm seas. As market crashes hit and inflation quietly eats away at your purchasing power, the 4% rule forces you to blindly pull money out of shrinking accounts. Your portfolio takes the hit, and the damage quickly becomes permanent. Even just a few years of bad market returns early in retirement can cause a catastrophic chain reaction. But there is a way to survive and actually thrive. We are going to decode this financial complexity and replace the broken engine of your retirement plan. We will uncover the hidden mechanics of the new 5% rule. By the end of this journey, you will have the exact, simplified formula to dynamically protect your wealth, ensuring that no matter how chaotic the global economy becomes, you will never outlive your money. What actually happens when a market crashes and you blindly follow the 4% rule? A retirement portfolio is really just a collection of invested shares and a bit of cash, arguably not even a complex machine. It can only make more of itself by staying invested. The danger starts when the market drops, say 20% in a single year. If you withdraw a rigid 4% plus inflation during this drop, your portfolio takes a devastating hit. The rule forces you to sell off vastly more shares just to get the same amount of cash. The shares sort of melt away, forever gone and unable to capture the eventual recovery. The number of shares you own shrinks exponentially. After just a few down years, a massive chunk of wealth is destroyed and the balance reaches a critical point where it can never recover. The old rule causes severe damage, but the new 5% rule is now going to release a powerful defense mechanism, dynamic guardrails. This system, while allowing you to spend more, actually protects your wealth through tight regulation. Instead of a rigid withdrawal, your portfolio executes new instructions which are pretty simple. Adapt and adjust. When the market is booming, you withdraw 5%. But when a recession hits, the system connects to a specific floor. You temporarily reduce your spending by a predefined percentage. This dynamic adjustment acts like a shock absorber, stopping the bleeding of your shares. Portfolios have neither brains nor instincts. They rely entirely on where you pull your money from. Nearly every successful survival strategy is controlled by an asset buffer. The 5% rule creates a strict division between your investments and a secure cash reserve holding a year of living expenses. In a sense, it puts your portfolio into a defensive formation. When markets are up, you sell winning stocks to refill the cash bucket. But when the market crashes, you leave your investments completely alone. You pull your income exclusively from the cash buffer. The shares stay untouched, waiting for the storm to pass, preventing the permanent losses the old rule would have forced upon you. To understand this defense, imagine navigating a treacherous mountain road. The old 4% rule is essentially putting a brick on the gas pedal. You are locked into a rigid speed, completely ignorant of what is happening outside. The car blindly moves forward regardless of the terrain, plunging off cliffs when markets plummet. It wastes resources and causes catastrophic damage. The new 5% rule acts as a modern navigation and cruise control system. It constantly reads the changing environment. It dynamically hits the brakes on steep economic hills to conserve fuel, and accelerates on straightaways when markets are clear. You maximize efficiency and safely reach your destination without burning out your engine. This leads to a highly counterintuitive reality. Two kinds of financial outcomes in particular wreak havoc on our intuition. First, by allowing yourself to withdraw a higher baseline percentage, 5% instead of 4%, you actually preserve more total wealth over a 30-year period. The presumed safe mechanism of hoarding money at a rigid 4% actually causes the death of your portfolio, as inflexible withdrawals pump out shrinking reserves during down years. They destroy your capacity for future gains. The other mechanism that seems incredibly risky, spending 5% dynamically, is exactly what saves your financial life. By embracing this fluid motion, it's not about the number. The tension between enjoying retirement and the creeping dread of going broke sort of melts away. The mathematical stabilization happens because the 5% guardrails naturally absorb the violent volatility of the global economy. The system, while designed to let you spend freely, tightly regulates your exposure to severe market drops. Your portfolio fills up with stability until it reaches a point of absolute sustainability. When shielded from the panic of selling at the absolute bottom, your wealth simply reassembles and compounds during the inevitable market upswings, keeping your financial engine running smoothly. But keeping that engine running is not just a mathematical achievement. It is a deeply human one. If we pull back from the microscopic details of portfolio percentages, interest rates, and shifting yield curves, a much more profound picture emerges. Your retirement is not merely a sequence of isolated 12-month fiscal quarters waiting to be survived. It is a sprawling ecosystem of time, stretching across decades of a human lifespan. The true objective here is the preservation of your actual lived experience, rather than the obsessive preservation of a digital balance on a bank screen. When you integrate this dynamic mechanism into your life, it permanently alters your future reality. You are suddenly no longer bound by the suffocating, quiet anxiety about living your resources. Because the 5% system breathes and adapts to the economic environment, the math changes completely in your favor. You can actually afford to step away from work and retire 3 to 5 years earlier than the rigid old models demanded. You are given the psychological permission to spend your money confidently during your healthiest years. You can take those long-delayed trips or dive into new passions without constantly looking over your shoulder for the next market crash. In the end, we are navigating a fundamental shift in how we approach our final decades. We are leaving behind a generation of fear-driven retirees who unnecessarily hoard their wealth until the day they die, paralyzed by the threat of an invisible economic monster. In their place, we are seeing the rise of an empowered class of individuals who actively and securely distribute their wealth to enjoy their lives today. The old rule forced you to build a fortress and hide inside it. The new rule gives you a map to explore the world. Money is really just a stored form of human energy and time. By letting your strategy adapt to the chaotic rhythm of the world, you finally free yourself to spend that time truly living.